Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session on Rubrik, Zero Trust Data Management for Microsoft. I'm Ann George, and I'm a Partner Marketing Director at Microsoft, and I have the pleasure of working closely with Rubrik on a day-to-day basis. I'm happy today to introduce our speaker, Kim Lambert, who is a Principal Product Marketing Manager at Rubrik. For us, Rubrik is definitely a strategic partner, and they're focused on addressing the most pressing data challenges that enterprises face today. This includes things like rapid recovery from ransomware, automation of data operations, and the transition of data to the cloud. This partnership that we have creates a big advantage for our joint customers that you'll absolutely want to hear more about. So without further ado, I'll let Kim tell you more about what's on the agenda for today. Take it away, Kim.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. I appreciate it. Yes, my name is Kim Lambert, and I am a product evangelist at Rubrik, the Zero Trust Data Management Company. So today I am excited to provide you with an overview of how we at Rubrik work with Microsoft to provide you with critical protection for your Microsoft environments. In this session, we'll both talk about and show you with real demos of the product how Rubrik data protection extends into your Microsoft environments, so that your data, no matter where it resides, is always protected from ransomware and other cyber attacks. Now, if you're one of many organizations that operates in a hybrid cloud environment, we know how important it is to make sure that your data protection is easy. So in terms of centralized management and visibility for your on-premises data center environments and public cloud infrastructures. So it's this customer need for better hybrid cloud protection. That's exactly why Rubrik is partnered with Microsoft, so that both companies can bring you best-in-class offerings and capabilities that just unify your data management. And then more importantly, provide you with that holistic approach to data security. So Rubrik can actually secure your Microsoft environments with full data protection for your virtual machines running in Azure, plus storage volumes via Azure managed disks. Plus, Rubrik does provide protection for your Microsoft Office 365 environment. So for OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams data, all of that using Microsoft Azure storage. And then for archival, your data, it's secure, it's immutable, it's air-gapped. It can't be accessed or encrypted by ransomware. And then, most importantly, these capabilities across Rubrik and Microsoft, it follows security best practices throughout. And this is critical because security and business resilience, it's really at stake here. Ransomware, it's everywhere in the news today, and it just depends on which source you take a look at. But ransomware attacks have surged anywhere from 400% to 800% over the past year alone. And this has become a board level concern for companies. We know that you're faced with the very real potential of having to deal with an attack. And your backup data, unfortunately, that's a major target. So you have to plan ahead. You have to be prepared with a business resilience strategy. And the best solution to protect what bad actors are after your data is one that takes a zero trust approach. Now, you may already be familiar with zero trust, but the National Institute of Standards and Technology, that's NIST, they define zero trust as a set of cybersecurity principles that are used when planning and implementing an enterprise architecture. So you may actually think of zero trust as a network security model, but the same principles actually also apply to data security. So zero trust essentially means trust no one, grant the least privileged access to data. And then Rubrik and Microsoft actually work extremely well together by following this approach. So Microsoft has recognized Rubrik's leadership position in the data security space. So they've even made an equity investment in Rubrik to drive new integrations and solutions to market and to accelerate Rubrik's industry-leading solution, which is actually based on Azure, to help customers solve these ransomware problems. So in a Rubrik Microsoft hybrid cloud environment, this Rubrik Zero Trust framework, it protects not only the data itself with immutability and encryption, but also secures the communication channels and makes sure that they are fully encrypted as well. So access to data operates on what they call a AAA framework. So authentication, authorization, audit. And then you want to be able to ensure that only legitimate and trusted users ever get access to the cloud environment. So these controls, they extend from Rubrik on-premises to Azure Cloud by way of SAML-based federated identity management. And this authentication process, it first verifies who a user or a service is. And since authentication with just a username and a password doesn't really cut it anymore, Rubrik incorporates MFA, so multi-factor authentication, without depending on any external systems. And we use a time-based one-time password to do that. So after the authentication process, authorization is what then determines the access rights. And role-based access control, RBAC, makes it so that you can assign predefined or custom roles within the system so that you can actually ensure that least privilege access. And then since both Rubrik and Azure provide predefined roles, that makes it really easy for you to configure RBAC across Rubrik systems and then into Azure. And of course, all these operations are logged. They can be monitored locally, or they can be shipped to a log analysis tool that you may have so that you have that audit trail for any changes that have been made. Now, many ransomware deployments, interesting thing here, they delay sending ransom notes until they've actually thwarted any of the protections that the ransomware victim may have in place. So they may very well be targeting your backup data to encrypt it and destroy it. Why? Because that maximizes their chances of the victim organization actually paying the ransom. They're much more likely to get paid that way. So the best protection against this is to then store your backups in a purpose-built immutable location. So something that's actually fundamental to the Rubrik Zero Trust framework is our native immutability. So once data is actually written to Rubrik, we have a proprietary append-only file system, and that ensures that that data, it can't be modified, it can't be compromised, and it can't be encrypted. So that data immutability actually also extends to Azure. So data is always maintained in that immutable state, and you have a reliable data copy from which you can actually recover your business. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, Rubrik integrates directly with the native immutability features of Microsoft Azure Blob Storage for cloud archival. So you have the option of long-term retention that's incapable of being reduced, so regardless of privilege level as well. And what this means is you're creating a readily available offsite copy of your data that's always there when you need it to be. So you also need to know that you can protect any cloud native workloads too. So if you have that running on Azure, you can do that with Rubrik Cloud Native Protection. And for that, we actually utilize Azure's native VM and managed disk snapshots, which are also immune to being altered. So this gives you automated, secure backup and archival for both traditional on-premises workloads and for those running on Azure. So keep in mind too that data is also secure when you're transferring to Azure Blob Storage. So Rubrik has this tight integration with Azure APIs so that we can ensure that all of the hybrid cloud data communications, they're fully authenticated and they're secure. So all data is encrypted at rest and in flight. So for that, it's maintaining its confidentiality from your data center to Azure Blob. Now, data is first encrypted using your organization's private key, and then it's written to Azure in an already encrypted state to be able to protect it in the cloud. So the encryption keys are securely managed by a hardware trusted platform module, a TPM, and then that's by default. Or you can also use a key management server, a KMS like Azure Key Vault. So Rubrik stores data in this proprietary format that only Rubrik knows how to read. So this also makes it very difficult for any data that's archived to Azure to be exfiltrated during an attack. And then plus, with this whole encryption process, the benefit of Rubrik being the one to manage it is an extra layer of protection. So an attacker needs not only the encryption key, but also needs to have Rubrik permissions. So that's another security layer we have there. And then when you combine the protection and then the security of Rubrik along with the flexibility, the scalability of Microsoft Azure Blob Storage, this fulfills the critical component of a solid data defense strategy. And that builds on top of what you may have for Azure Defender, Azure Sentinel, and any other security tools that you may be using. So let's go ahead now and take a look at a first demo from my colleague Jeff in Rubrik Technical Marketing. And Jeff is going to show one example of how Rubrik protects one of the most popular databases out there, Microsoft SQL Server, and is able to provide recovery when you need it with a lot of simplicity and speed.
Hi, I'm Jeff Inouye with Rubrik Tech Marketing. Around the world, Microsoft SQL Server is an integral piece of mission-critical applications, and it's matured to become a trusted service as a database engine. Because of this, data protection and data management are an important task to the DBA. In this demo, we're going to cover two areas of our SQL integration that alleviate common concerns with database protection, such as how can I quickly recover a database when I need it, and how can I simplify the management of database backups across my environments. First, let's take a look at how we can quickly recover with Rubrik Live Mount. Using our global search, I'll start typing the name of the database we want to recover. Now there's no need to dig around, clicking buttons in search of our data. We simply use our global search, leveraging the rich indexing capabilities of the system. From here, we're presented with key information about the database, including the host, SLA policy, and a calendar view to aid our recovery. As an example, let's say we need to inspect a few rows of historical data or run an audit report from a weekly batch process. That process completed around 8:30 a.m. on Sunday, so we'll go ahead and select that day. Rubrik is transaction log aware, so we can either simply use the slider or we can manually input the point in time desired. We click the ellipses and we're presented with a variety of recovery options. We want quick access to the data with Live Mount, so we'll select Mount. We select the target SQL host, SQL instance, we'll give it a common name, and away we go. As a side note, Live Mount is exactly what it sounds like. We create a read-write copy of the database mounted from Rubrik to the database host of your choice. However, our backups are immutable, so the system only reads from our backup copy and then patches any new writes to a separate file. While that's running, let's take a look at how we can leverage a single SLA policy to provide data protection at a granular level. This could be applied at the host, instance, or the database. Remember, an SLA policy uses a declarative model to define the RPO, replication, and archival of data protected. On the security front, all data is encrypted in flight and at rest. Additionally, database backups are protected by our Zero Trust architecture, which extends from CDM to a cloud archive. Here in the SQL UI, we can see my SQL host on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you can see the applied SLA. So as we drill down, you'll notice that because of our auto-inheriting policy, database protection is applied automatically. At the database level, you can see that we have a derived policy from our baseline protection. This was applied at the host level. You'll also notice that we've directly applied an SLA to a database with separate requirements. This could be due to compliance reasons or different recovery point objectives. This is a great feature for the DBA because business requirements often differ from database to database. Once an SLA policy is defined, it can be automatically applied across all your databases or instances as needed. And the automation of Rubrik eliminates the worry of a database not being protected. An SLA policy also provides a single definition that can be reported against for auditing purposes, so successes or failures or archive targets can be easily pinpointed in an audit. Let's hop over to our SQL host to check the status of our live-mounted database. Now that we're consoled into our server, as we refresh our inventory in SQL Studio, you can see our recovered database is already available and ready to be used. At Rubrik, data management and data security for Microsoft SQL Server is a game changer for the DBA, where they can be confident in their backups and have quick access to data when it's needed.
Thanks so much to Jeff for that SQL demo. So because all backup operations are managed from the Rubrik Management Console, and that uses a native integration with Azure APIs, you can easily search, you can discover, you can manage your data either within or across cloud accounts and regions. And this is all right alongside your on-premises data as well. So you're getting a holistic, easy to manage method of protection for all of your enterprise applications. And this is truly intuitive management that offers a guided process to rapidly recover your VMs, your databases, and even recover individual files that may be targeted by an attack. So that's incredibly important if you're hit by ransomware, you find yourself dealing with this ransomware event, and even if your data becomes corrupted or it's accidentally deleted, all of those scenarios, this comes into play. But the good news is, in the case of a ransomware attack, if you have Rubrik, all it takes is just a few clicks so that you can rapidly recover, you can restore from uncompromised data, and then you can ensure your business continuity. So don't just take my word for it, though. I want you also to check out this quick demo of how Rubrik Ransomware Investigation detects anomalies, analyzes the threat, and accelerates recovery of your critical data.
Hello. I'm Josh Robinson, Technical Marketing Architect at Rubrik. Today I'm going to show you how Rubrik helps you achieve cyber resiliency by protecting your business's most important asset, your data. That means defending against cyber threats so you never have to pay the ransom. Before we jump into the demo, let's talk about a couple of fundamental features that make Rubrik cyber resilient. These fundamental features are all a part of what we call Data Guardian. Data Guardian consists of an immutable purpose-built file system, a declarative policy engine, and a threat engine. Additionally, Rubrik integrates with SAML2 identity providers and directory services such as Azure Active Directory and has multi-factor authentication and fine-grained role-based access control. I won't go into their details in this demo, but combined, they guard your data from any unauthorized access, encryption, or deletion. The first feature in the Rubrik arsenal against ransomware is Radar. It utilizes an ML model that identifies common file usage patterns and alerts on anomalies. As you can see, an anomaly has been identified. Here we see a graph of file activity over time across many snapshots. Notice that we can download a CSV file that will list all the file changes. This CSV file will come into play later. By pressing Investigate Snapshot, we can dig deeper into the alert. On the left-hand side, we have the details of the snapshot that are being compared. In the middle, we have the directories and files of the snapshots with flags for file changes and suspicious files. From here, we can recover to the entire previous snapshot by pressing Recover Full Snapshot, or we can investigate further by drilling into the directories. I want to see just the deleted and suspicious files. Notice that we have a deleted file with a very similar name to the suspicious file. Behind the scenes, Radar has compared the relative entropy of the files to conclude that it has been encrypted. From here, we could select individual files to recover or go up a level and select additional directories or files. Now that we know where the encrypted files are and which snapshots to recover them from, someone will probably want to know if there was any sensitive data in the files that were encrypted. For this, we have Sonar. Sonar searches through the files and snapshots to identify sensitive information. This search is done locally on each Rubrik installation, and only the number of hits and locations of the hits are sent to Sonar. This dashboard shows you the number of hits over time, the number of objects scanned, the top risk objects, and several other things. There are many predefined policies and analyzers that cover a large amount of sensitive data types, including things like US and UK passports, credit card numbers, tax identification numbers, and many more. Additionally, customers can create their own policies where they can select the analyzers to be used in the policy, including making their own custom analyzers. An analyzer can either be a regular expression or a dictionary. Now to see if the files that were encrypted also have sensitive data in them. Here we have all the objects being scanned by Sonar. We are looking for ZFG file server. By selecting the VM, we are brought to the details. Notice that it is marked as low risk. This is because even though it has many hits, those hits are not in files with open access. We can investigate further by drilling down into the directories and seeing which files contain hits. Or we can download CSV for files with hits and compare it to the CSV we downloaded earlier from Radar. Finally, Sonar can also be used as a proactive tool to help customers identify files that have hits and open access. Now data owners can be informed where their sensitive data is and where they need to change permissions to protect it. All of this without implementing anything additional or affecting production's performance. As you can see, Rubrik has enabled customers to identify data that might have been encrypted, identify where their sensitive data is and if it has open access, and finally recover from ransomware without having to pay the ransom.
I love that demo. It's awesome to see how you can actually recover from a ransomware attack so easily with Rubrik. Now, I'll mention too, the same Rubrik Zero Trust principles also extend to Microsoft 365. So all Microsoft 365 data is stored in Azure in an encrypted and immutable state with multi-factor authentication enabled for all Microsoft 365 data backup operations. Also, a logical air gap is maintained between Rubrik management and the Azure environment. So it's storing the protective Microsoft 365 data in a separate secure account that is managed by Rubrik. So archive locations, they can't be deleted, they can't be altered. And this again ensures your data is intact. It's readily available exactly when you need it for recovery. Now, let's see one more demo. This time, Mike Preston from our Rubrik technical marketing team will give you a fast-paced look at why protecting your Microsoft 365 data is so critical first, and then he'll show you the product in action.
Hi everyone, my name's Mike Preston, and thanks so much for joining this Rubrik demo. Today, I want to walk you through our Microsoft 365 protection. Organizations across the globe utilize Microsoft 365 as their daily productivity platform, trusting it with their most important and precious data. While Microsoft does provide a number of tools and services to ensure compliance and reliability, the customer is ultimately responsible for protecting their own data. Microsoft themselves recommend as a best practice to leverage a third-party backup and recovery solution. With that in mind, let me show you how Rubrik Polaris provides a SaaS-based approach to Microsoft 365 protection and how we can ensure your critical data is secure, easily discoverable, and always accessible. We'll begin here on the Microsoft 365 dashboard within Rubrik Polaris. Now, we already have a subscription in place, but if we didn't, or if we needed to add another, it's as easy as clicking Add Subscription and following all the subsequent prompts. So once we have a subscription connected, the first thing we need in order to protect Microsoft 365 is an SLA domain. So let's go ahead and create one, and I'll explain the constructs as we go. I'll head to SLA domains and then create SLA domain. I'll select Microsoft 365 as my protected object type and click Next. Here, we simply input our RPO along with our retention. So let's say I want to back up every 6 hours, which I'll keep for a day, and then maybe I'll take a daily, which I'll keep for a week. Clicking Show More gives us even more RPO options, such as weekly and quarterly. Now I'm fine with this, so I'll just click Next. We'll give this SLA a name, and then finally click Create. And that's it. We've created our declarative SLA domain policy. All we need to do now is begin assigning objects such as mailboxes or OneDrive accounts to this policy. With that, let's go and protect some Microsoft 365 email accounts. Here in our account listing, we can see that all of our users have already been assigned to an SLA domain, with the assignment showing a status of derived. What this indicates is that we have assigned an SLA domain to the top level of the hierarchy, meaning all existing users, along with any new users created, will automatically inherit this SLA domain. That said, a lot of times organizations will have specific groups of users who require a greater level of protection. Well, let me show you how we can override these top-level SLAs. I'll filter my list here to see my individual user account and then click Manage Protection. Here, I can directly assign an SLA to myself, say the one we created earlier. This will override the inheritance of the top-level SLA that we looked at earlier. All right, let's get into what matters most, restoring. First, I'll drill into my account, and as you can see, we are presented with a nice calendar view, with each green checkmark indicating that we have one or more backups present for that day. I'll select a day here, and then select Recover next to a backup listing. Here, we have a number of options. We can restore the complete mailbox, or if we wanted to get specific, we can browse the mailbox structure and select individual folders as well. Now, I know that the email I wanted to restore contained the word important in the subject, but I have no idea when I deleted it. So for this, I'm going to cancel out and use this global search bar instead. And Rubrik goes out and searches across all of the restore points available, and there it is. There's a few point-in-time copies of my super important email. Let's select one and then click Recover to begin the process. We have a couple of options for recovery. We can restore this message directly back to the original user, or we can select to restore to a different user within the organization. In either case, a new folder will be created, timestamped, and will contain the restored message inside the desired email account. In this case, I'll select to restore back to my account and click Recover. Let's jump into the Events tab to see what's happening. As you can see, our restore has already been completed. Let's jump into my mailbox and see if we can't find our important email. And the first thing I can see is an email notification letting me know that a successful restore operation has taken place. Now I can also see that I now have a folder labeled Restored On and appended with today's date. Inside this folder is the restored copy of my super important email. Thanks to this SaaS-based deployment model of Rubrik Polaris, the powerful policy-based protection engine, and lightning-fast global search capabilities, Rubrik is able to drastically simplify data protection for your Microsoft 365 environment. But don't just take my word for it. Contact us today to get started with your free 30-day trial. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Mike, for that demo on Microsoft 365. All right, so to sum up, with Rubrik's partnership with Microsoft, we really deliver this world-class solution for our joint customers. And it starts with a support and an engineering interlock end-to-end. So this goes across data center, it goes across applications, customer data estates, applications running at the edge, as well as apps running in Azure, and even SaaS like Microsoft 365 you just saw. So we fully utilize that joint engineering and product interlock when it comes to what we're building and what we're creating so that we can actually deliver world-class solutions and support. We have over 2,500 joint customers across a variety of industries, and we have a strategic worldwide engagement for go-to-market, so supporting our joint customers, and we've got hundreds of petabytes under management with Microsoft Azure. So the good news for you is if you're already an Azure customer, Rubrik is a validated solution with Azure, and it's available for purchase on the Azure Marketplace. And then if you have a large Microsoft Azure consumption commitment, if you have a Mac in place, Rubrik is an excellent tool for you as well. So you can get the software through the marketplace that can actually help you decrement and attribute toward the Azure commitment that you've already made. Now, Rubrik, we're also a gold partner with Microsoft. And of course, it's been a real honor to be validated in Partner of the Year and other awards as well. But with this, now you have an idea of how this joint protection of Rubrik and Microsoft really gives you an easy on-ramp for a zero trust data protection strategy that extends from your data center to the cloud. And with it, you're going to be better prepared against evolving targeted cyber attacks that threaten your data and your business. All right, as a next step, please visit our featured partner showcase page. It's linked on the right-hand side here. You can watch an on-demand session where we actually go more in depth on Microsoft 365 And you'll be able to join our Ask the Expert session that is coming up next. Thank you so much for joining me on this session where Rubrik and Microsoft work together with Zero Trust data management. Really appreciate your time.